Hello.
Yeah, Jackie. Good afternoon.
Hi, great. Can I try sharing my screen? So, hello.
Yeah. Please, Jackie.
Yeah. Can you see that all right?
Yes.
Great. Great. Okay. So do we just wait now?
Yes. 12:30. You can just start.
Okay. Will you tell me when to start?
12:30 is the start time, so you can just start by 12:30.
So, are you going to give me any prompt to say start, or shall I just start?
Yeah. I will just send you a message.
Okay. All right then.
Okay. You can turn off the video.
Sorry?
You can turn off the video till the time.
Okay. Now the question is, if I turn it off, will I be able to turn it back on?
Yes.
Um,
Move the cursor on the middle of the screen, top.
yeah, but when I'm oh, I see. So stop sharing my screen, you mean?
Don't stop. Just mute the video.
Okay. Like that.
Yes.
Okay. And can I just, what was I going to say? Yes. Can you put where am I going to see the questions? Can you just show me again?
Okay. The participants will be raising the question through chat window. So
And
I'm
that's going to pop up, is it?
correct. You can able to see on the third icon. If you could see, there is a chat button.
Yeah. But
You can
what
start.
I'm saying is, do I need to click on that, or will
It will come automatically.
It will come automatically. Okay. All right. That's
Okay.
fine. Thank you.
Yeah. You can turn on the video on 12:30. Huh?
I'll turn the video back on in 8 minutes.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Good morning. My name's Jackie, and I really hope you can hear me and see me. I am the clinical director at the London Learning Centre, which is a multidisciplinary centre with speech and language therapists, occupational therapists, psychologists, special educators. And we're based in Delhi, in Gurgaon, and also in Bangalore. But at the moment, we're doing teletherapy. So actually, we're seeing clients from all over, not only India, but actually outside India. So good morning to you, and I hope you're okay. It's such an unusual time at the moment, isn't it? I mean, extraordinary time for people, and extraordinary time for children to really adjust to such a different routine. And I think for young children particularly, it's a very difficult time, and a time where we as parents need to put back in for those children a really good routine in their home environment so they can feel secure in structure again. So this morning, and someone just texted that they can't see me. I'm sorry, I'm not good at technicals, so I don't know quite what to do about that. So if someone can tell me what to do about that, that would be great. But we're going to go through some different strategies to support communication skills in the early years. And I hope you enjoy it. Please do ask questions, and let me know if you want me to explain something a little bit more. So, right, the first thing I'm going to do is just work out how I move my slides on, which at the moment I can't do. Let me just, there we go. Great. So children develop their early communication skills through the positive interaction with adults around them. And, you know, we can talk about what is communication, because this whole session is about developing communication. But communication isn't something you do on your own. The whole aspect, talking, you can do on your own. Many people can talk to themselves or, you know, rehearse something. But communication isn't something we do on our own. Communication is something you do with a partner, because the whole aspect of communication is you're giving a message to somebody. And that message may be in words, it may be in gestures, it may be in facial expressions, it may be giving someone a look thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on here? It can be lots of different ways. But for children, we are so important in developing their communication skills, because we're often the partner that the person they give that message to. So communication is about doing something with someone else. And, you know, babies initially don't even know they're communicating. So babies, when they're first born and when they're young, aren't aware of communication. So what happens is we teach them and show them that they're communicating. So for example, if a baby starts crying and you pick them up, they know when I cry, I'm likely to get picked up. So I'm going to cry to tell someone I want to be picked up. And so that communication starts happening. Now, the really important thing about this is that our responses to children will determine how they communicate. So if we are really responsive to children, then they will be better communicators, because they're going to learn that what they do, whether it's a cry, whether it's a word, whether it's asking mummy for something or daddy for something, whatever it is, they're going to get a response, and therefore they want to communicate. If children don't get a response, they will stop being motivated about communicating. And so the first thing I want to say to you is be highly responsive. And as I put there, home is the most important school for young children. And our we as parents are the most important teachers. It's not school, it's us, because we will teach them so much more than just their learning around academics. We will teach them things that are vitally important for their life, in communication, in socialization, in respecting one another, in relationship building, in all those areas. So research has shown that, and in line with what I've just said, research has shown that a baby's communication skills can be accelerated when parents respond to more than 80% of their vocalizations. And this can be any sounds. And I know, look, I've had children, I've got 4 grandchildren. I know it can be really hard to do this, but trying to be responsive is really important. And you can say, no, I can't talk, or no, I can't do something now, but ignoring isn't the best way forward. And even with children, you know, if they cut chasing you around because they want to speak to you, rather than ignoring them, actually say to them, no, I can't talk to you at this time. And then set up a time when you can. But ignoring really doesn't help early communication skills. So then looking at the early years, and why do we keep talking about early communication and early years? And that's because doctors and pediatricians would say that probably some would say the first 3 years, but the first 3 to 5 years of a child's life are really critical for early language and communication skills. And, you know, sometimes even it can, you know, the critical period, we can say, look, it can go on for longer than that. But when we're talking about language and communication, the first 3 to 5 years of life is really critical, and it can set a child up for future success. So that's why we're always talking about early intervention and early language skills and helping children at an early stage. So just looking at that now, and I've talked about these levels before, so I'm just going to skim over this. But just thinking, you know, knowledge is so important, isn't it? And I have many parents say to me, well, look, should my child have been able to do this at 2 years? And does it matter that they've only got, you know, 4 or 5 words and they're 2 years old, or they've only got, you know, 100 words and they're 3 years old? And so knowledge is really important. And so just being aware of what children should be doing at different ages. And, you know, that when a child is 12 months, some of the children at 12 months have started to get a few early words, but usually they're just using their vocalizations to get attention from their parents. By about 18 months, we would be expecting 20 to 50 words and them starting to use gestures. By 18 months, I would expect children to be pointing at things. So they might point at what they want to eat, or point at a toy they want, or point at something. But by 2 years, they're still pointing a lot, but pointing out things of interest, just to show you things. And showing is really, really important because it's a social function that children will want to share interests with you. They've seen something they like and they want to share it with you. And that's really important. By 2 years, we're expecting them to have around 200 words, and be using phrases, joining 2 to 3 words in a phrase. And then we have this massive, real acceleration in a child's ability to learn words. And you know, they're probably understanding 1 new word a day, and they're probably at this stage starting to say 1 new word a day, which is really hugely exciting. And children develop these really big vocabularies at around this stage. So it's that time of accelerated learning. And they're starting at 3 to use conjunctions. And by conjunctions, I'm talking about things like and. And so they'll say, let's go out and play, or I want a biscuit and I want something else. And then by 4 years, they're using things like pronouns, he and she, or verb tenses, or using because in their sentences. So children develop their communication skills, but this session is really about what can we do to help children develop their communication skills better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through about 8 different strategies over the next 40 minutes of different areas that we can, or maybe 30 minutes, we'll see how we go, different areas of how we can support and help children in developing their communication skills. Now, the first one is quite an interesting one because it's child-directed speech. And what do I mean by that? We can call it, you know, some people have called it motherese, some people call it infant-directed speech. And it's where, when you're talking to a child, and we sort of tend to do this automatically, we change our intonation and we change the way we speak. Now, because I speak to children so much of my day, I'm talking to children, I have to be careful that when I talk to adults, I don't use this type of speech because it can sound really patronizing and really awful if I sort of say to an adult, hey, hello, you know, it's embarrassing. You don't want to be talking as if you're talking to a child. But what is important is that we as parents we do use child-directed speech when we're talking to our children. And why is that important? It's important because they did a research project and they played ordinary speech where you talk at a normal pace with normal sentences, normal vocabulary, don't change your pitch, don't change your intonation to one side, and then the other side they played child-directed speeches, which is where you go slower, you use a higher pitch, you use shorter phrases, and then the child will learn language better. What they found was the children respond much better to the child-directed speech. They responded much better when parents used higher pitches or shorter phrases or slower. So instead of saying, this is a car, you say, this is a car. Or instead of saying, oh, there's an aeroplane in the sky, you say, oh, there's an aeroplane in the sky. So it's using intonation, using shorter phrases, and using pitch to build anticipation. And so sometimes we can think, oh no, it won't help our child if I use a shorter phrase. It will. They'll learn language better. So my first strategy I want to say to you is if you've got a little child of 2 or 3, then use child-directed speech. They need to pick out what words are important and you need to emphasize those words. So use child-directed speech. The next thing that I want to say is that focus on frequency and location. Children need to hear a word several hundred times before they learn it fully. So try and use the same words or the same phrases in the same situation as much as possible, and you'll really help your child with learning their language. I've put there modeling. We can model and extend. It's called recasting. So if your child says to you, mummy gone or mama gone, you can model and extend that. So instead of saying, yes, your mother has gone to the shop to buy food, you can just add a little 1 word or 2 words. So if the child says mummy gone, you can say, yes, mummy gone shops, mummy gone shops. So I've added 1 word on there. So they're learning how to extend their phrases a little bit and hearing a clear model. So listen to what they say. If they get the words in the wrong order, just say it again for them in a just extending that phrase a little bit so they can hear it. Now, the next one is a bit of a hobby horse for me because I always say this to parents. I always say it when I do talks. And I just really want to encourage you, if you've got young children, don't make them say things. So don't say this or say, you know, if Granny or Nani comes, say this to Nani, or say, try not to use the word say, try and elicit it. So instead of me, you know, showing a child a car and say car, you show the child the car and you say, it's a, and so you try and elicit it. So eliciting is using your intonation, using your words, but not making them say it. When you make children talk, it creates some anxiety and pressure around speaking, which in the long run can cause children to refuse or withdraw. Then the next thing I got here is contingent talking. And that's when you're trying to encourage a child to communicate. Talk about what they're looking at or what they're playing with or what they're interested in. Don't try a whole new subject. Children will be really much more engaged when you talk about, so say they're building a big tower, talk about that tower. If they're really excited at building blocks on each other to make a tower, you can talk about that tower, or talk about, you know, if they're playing with Peppa Pig toys, talk about Peppa Pig. Don't try talking about something else. You're far more likely to engage them in communication if you talk about what they're interested in or what they're looking at. And we can create really enticing environments to help children to communicate. So the first thing is changing the way we talk to children. The second thing that I want to say to encourage early communication skills is about questioning. And this is really important because when we talk to our children, I think a lot of what we say to our children is asking them to do things or get things or behave in a certain way. And we don't always, we need to really balance how we communicate with our children. And a great way of encouraging children in communication is asking them the right questions. And by the right questions, I mean not asking them questions that are too difficult for them to answer. It's like I've heard parents say to children of like 2 or 3, why did you behave like that? Well, a 2.5-year-old can't answer a why because question. So what we've got to do is really help ourselves monitor how we speak to children and the sort of questions that we ask them, so we can ask questions at the right levels. Now, questions are a great way of developing your child's early thinking skills and early reasoning skills. And it's a really, really important way for us to develop their skills. So if you want to develop communication skills, be aware of the questions that you ask them. And I'm going to go through 4 levels of questioning for different ages, from age 2 to age 5 to 6. And just have a look at that with you. Now, an easy way to do this is to do it with looking at books. And books, sitting down and looking at books with children is so important. A friend of mine said to me, every child should have a favorite book. And at the time they said that to me, my children didn't have a favorite book. And I said, oh, my children don't like books. And they were right, because I hadn't introduced books properly with my children, not making them listen to stories, but actually working out what they're interested in, and therefore being able to find the right books that they are wanted to look at. So I agree with my friend now. Every child should have a favorite book. If your child hasn't got a favorite book, try and look at what they're interested in and find books with amazing pictures that they love to look at. So let's look at questioning. All right, questions, level 1 questions are those questions that are for 2 to 3 year olds. And it's really about their immediate surroundings, their immediate perceptions. So if you're looking at a book and you've got a 2 to 3 year old, instead of asking complicated questions, ask simple questions like, what's this? And you can see a picture of a bear there. What's this? And they might say bear. Or where's the dog? And then they can point to the dog. Or Where's the bear? And they can point to the bear. Or where's the baby? They can point to the baby. So make it very concrete. So it's immediately about what they can see, or maybe you're sitting with them and they hear a noise and you say, what's that? So level 1 questioning is for your 2 to 3 year olds, and it's about their immediate perceptions, what they can hear and what they can see, and it's very concrete. Then level 2, so level 2 then is for your 3-year-olds. And level 2 is questions, is where children at that age should be looking at things in more detail. So instead of saying, where's the dog? You could say, where's something that barks? Or instead of saying, where's the girl or the backpack, you say, what's the girl carrying? So you look at things in more detail. You can ask about color, where's something red? Or you can ask about size, where's something big? You can ask about function, where's something we eat, or where's something we can play with. You can ask where, what, or who questions. So with this picture, it might be, where are they? Or it might be, what is the girl doing? She's jumping. Or who is carrying the baby? Daddy. So think, if you've got a 3-year-old, it's who, where, what questions, and it's looking at things in more detail. So it's those adjectives, size words, color words, action words. It's being able to answer those sorts of questions. And then looking at level 3. Now, level 3 questions are for your 4-year-olds. And this is where it's not just about, who, where, what, it's why. So they start to be able to answer a question like why. Why are they climbing on that fence? Or because they want to get into the next field. Or if you see a picture of a child crying, why are they crying? So they should at that age be able to answer with because. So they'll answer because they want to get into the field, or because he's feeling sad. At this stage, a child should be able to retell a story. So you could tell a simple story, shut the book and ask the child to tell you the story again. So they should be able to get a few facts to retell you the story. At this age, you can ask a child, so we're thinking about the questions you ask, you can ask a child what might happen next. Look, the boy's standing on the top of the fence, what might happen next? Oh, he's going to jump off. They're going to run in the field. What might happen next? So this is all about why, because, retelling a story, being able to say what might happen next, predicting what might happen next, and also seeing from someone else's point of view. Then level 4, this is the more complex. So this is for your 5-year-olds. And this is where children start to predict, but beyond just basic prediction. They predict something quite complex that might happen in a situation. They can problem solve. They can give you some solutions. So you could say to the child, what do you think could happen? How can we manage that? We're in a situation, what should we do? And see if they can come up with some solutions, because a 5-year-old should be able to come up with some solutions to problems. They should be able to justify something. So if you say to them, why, this is the age where you can say, why did you behave like that? They should be able to say, well, because I was feeling really cross because this happened and this happened. So these are the more complex questions and problem solving and justifying that you can ask your 5-year-old. And I would encourage you to do that, because it will really help their communication skills and really help their reasoning. Because in school and in life, we need to be able to problem solve. And this is the age where we can encourage our children to develop their communication skills, to put forward different solutions and explain why they're doing that. So here I've got a picture from the bear hunt. You might know the bear hunt, great story, I love it. And level 1 question, if I've got my 2-year-old, might be, where's the dog? A level 2 question for my 3-year-old might be, what are they doing? And then the level 3-year-old, level 3 for my 4-year-old might be, why are they carrying their shoes? What might happen next? And they're, you know, hopefully that 4-year-old will say they're carrying their shoes because they don't want to get them wet. So next time you're sitting down with a book with your child, think about levels of questions. Think about how old your child is and what sort of level of questions that you could be asking your child. And really think about how you could develop their early reasoning skills. The next one, so the first one we've got is child-directed speech, and that's about how you change the way you talk. The second thing that I've talked about is questioning, and that's the level of questioning that we use with our children and how we can use questions to support their early reasoning skills. And then this next one is how we can help children in communicating about their feelings. And talking about our feelings is really, really important. So I really want to encourage you on this one, because this again is something I feel quite strongly about. You know, children can show their emotions really readily. And I think research has shown that children will laugh over 100 times a day on average, whereas adults will laugh about 10 to 15 times a day. And look, laughing is really good for you. And maybe, you know, in this time, it's really hard to laugh about things because the situation is not easy at all. But laughing is great. And children can go from laughing to feeling angry to feeling upset in such a short space of time. They, you know, they really show different emotions really readily. But they learn how to recognize those emotions. And from you, they're going to learn how to label those emotions. Now, we know as adults, it's important to talk about how we're feeling. It's important for our self-regulation, and it's important for us in our social relationships that we tell people how we're feeling. And so we can't just automatically expect children to suddenly be able to talk about how they're feeling without any support from us. You know, I said at the beginning, parents are the most important teachers in a child's life. And we need to help children develop that ability to recognize and talk about how they're feeling. And that's about using the language of emotions in your home. And I would say we don't often do this, and we need to think about it. So if, for example, our child at a young age is looking upset, we'll usually say, what's the matter? We won't tend to say, you're looking upset, what's the matter? And so what I want to encourage you to develop their communication skills, we need to start using emotional vocabulary at home. So instead of just saying, what's the matter? We say, oh, you're looking a bit sad. What's the matter? Or if you notice your child is getting a bit cross or frustrated, maybe one of their siblings has taken a toy and they're starting to get irritated, then you can say, instead of saying, what's going on here? Or what, you know, what's happened? Say, you're looking a bit cross. What's happened? So start using that vocabulary, and you can use simple vocabulary. You don't have to use vocabulary like anxious or frustrated. You can use happy, excited, sad, cross, sleepy. You can use those words with them so that and use them about yourself as well. And so that they can start to recognize those feelings and then start using those words to be able to talk about how they're feeling, so that if they come to you and say, I'm feeling a bit cross, and you say, why? And then they talk about why, and they can learn how to manage that rather than just think, I'm feeling it and I don't know what to do about it. So encourage the language of emotions in your home setting. Just make a decision you're going to start to use some different emotions vocabulary so that your child at a later stage can learn to talk about how they're feeling and then to be able to communicate and self-regulate so much better. You know, they say, we talk about our senses and we say that we have 5 senses, but actually we have now 8 senses. So we have our normal 5 senses. And I'm going to try and say them because I usually forget one of them. Hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching. Got them. Tactile. Lovely. And then we've got 2 more, which is proprioceptive and vestibular. And they're about our ability to determine our body in space and sense movement. But now they're talking about an 8th sense. And that 8th sense is your ability to interpret your inner feelings. So your ability to like a child's ability to recognize they're hungry, or a child's ability to recognize they're feeling sad, or a child's ability to recognize they're feeling cross. And so that 8th sense is really important. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about it more in that whole arena of child development. So I've got some sayings here, you know, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And children's emotions are as real as yours. Just because they might get sad over the color of their cup doesn't make them their feelings less real. And so, you know, educating the mind without educating the heart is no educating at all. And I feel so strongly about that. And I feel so strongly that we need to help children in all areas, not just their academic learning. We need to help them to understand their social world, their emotional world. And, you know, well-being is at the heart of learning. Happy children learn. And if you want your child to be successful and bright in their learning and successful in their learning, you need to pay attention to their well-being. And what do I mean by well-being? I mean their emotional state, their attachments, their self-awareness, their social awareness, their how they're feeling. So that's a really important part of communication. So when we're talking about communication, we can't separate those things. So based on that, if we know children are going to be able to communicate better when they can emotionally regulate, when they can just calm down, you know, what happens and later in life, in fact, I know adults like this, that when they get emotional, they withdraw from communicating. My husband's been really good at stopping me do this, but I used to be someone who could sulk. And so if I was upset about something or cross about something, I would stop communicating. And that's really not healthy. And it doesn't help us and it doesn't help our relationships. And so from a very young age, we need to help children. How do they self-regulate? And this is about being able to calm down quickly after an emotional episode and stopping escalation. And this will really help their communication skills because it's so strongly linked. Your emotional well-being is so strongly linked to your ability to communicate. And so recognizing how our children's, how our children respond in different settings is really important. And, you know, recognizing they're starting to get a little bit uptight here, or whenever they're in a noisy environment, this is how they react, or whenever they're playing with their sibling on a particular toy, this is how they react. So being aware how your children's emotional responses are in different settings is really important. And recognizing what is a stressful situation for your child is really important. But also recognizing what's your child's happy place. You know, we all have happy places. Mine is watching Netflix is my happy place. with my husband, or ideally with my children and grandchildren. So what is your happy place? What is your child's happy place? So what toys make them feel calm, and what situations make them feel calm? And it may be that your child needs a quiet place, or one of my grandchildren we put up a little tent, a little teepee in their room, and they go into that tent. He goes into that tent where we've got his favorite toys, and he sits whenever he's feeling overwhelmed. He goes into that teepee, that tent, and has a happy, calming moment with his favorite toys, with not many people around, and then he can calm and then come out and join us all again. And so setting up for an area for your child that they can go and self-regulate with their favorite toys in their favorite place in their room is really important. And so that when you see that your child is starting to show signs of emotional dysregulation, so they're starting to get a bit overwhelmed or starting to get a bit irritated, you can do a gentle prompt. Shall we go and look at your toys, or shall we go into your teepee, or shall we go and find that place? Now, obviously, if things have escalated too far, there's no, if you say, let's go and look at Peppa Pig, it's not going to help. So you need to catch things early. And when you do, gradually the child will learn, when I feel like this, I just need to take a moment, and they'll go to that place themselves. And it's the early signs of learning how to self-regulate. And it's really important. And another aspect of building of communication skills is being able to build relationships. Now, we said at the beginning, communication is not something you do on your own. Communication is something you do with others. And so you need other people to build your communication skills, and you need to have good relationships with other people to build your communication skills. And so for children, this is one link to communication, but also linked to how well-being is really important to make us confident communicators, is for children, recognizing who are the special people in their life and building attachments. Attachments are so important. And maybe, your child is someone who is very, very attached to you as their mom or their dad, and find it very difficult to go and be with anyone else. Look, I would say to you, children learn how to be dependent before they learn how to be independent. And so strong attachments aren't always a bad thing. But what we have to do, well, they're not a bad thing at all. Strong attachments are wonderful. But what we have to do is help children create attachments with more than just their parents, but with special people in their life. And that takes a little bit of work. And don't just think, I want my child to be able to go to anyone. Choose people, choose special people in their life that you can work on your child building an attachment with them. And maybe it's, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's an aunt that always brings them a certain toy, or maybe it's a aunt or uncle or friend that will always do a certain game with them, so they can look forward to seeing that person because they want to play that game. And so you can build certain people, and not many. You don't want to have lots. You just want to have one or two special people that they know that you're working on building attachments for your child, so that they can build those relationships. And a lot of what we do in life, like this is really important for communication, like being curious and using our initiative, is from a place of security. When my children used to go and be curious in other situations, if we went out to the park or we went somewhere, they would always look back to me as their security. Is mummy still sitting there? Yes, I can feel comfortable. And children need a place of security to then feel confident to go and explore. And so in life, they need these special people that they've got attachments to that will bring security to their life. My relationships bring security to my life. So we need to help our children to build special people, recognize special people in their life. And you can reinforce that by the things that you do. And I've put here, developing social routines that provide opportunities to communicate. And social routines are like, I always play this game with this person, or I always, this person always does a particular trick with me. Or maybe in your own home that you have family routines. We always play peekaboo in the morning, or we always play this game when daddy or mummy comes into the room. Or creating these social routines will create an opportunity for communication, which is really important. Confidence. So developing confidence in communication is really important. And developing confidence in themselves is really important. So, what is our confidence based on? What is your confidence based on today? Your confidence is based on knowing who you are, knowing what you can do, knowing your skills, having an identity, having a strong identity. And so we need to help children to know who they are, to understand who they are. So it might be that your child is really good at something. So you need to reinforce that and say, oh my goodness, you are so good at drawing. You're the artist in the family. How lovely. Or, oh my goodness, you love transport toys. You're the one. Are you going to be doing something in transport later? You're our transport person. You know everything about transport. Or helping children to really recognize their own uniqueness and their own unique skills and personality, and praising their efforts in those areas. It's really important, so they can, my parents, I've always loved children, even as a teenager, even as a young child, I've always loved being with other children. And so that's something my parents said, you're just so good with children, you love children. And so that really gave me confidence in life to communicate with children, which led me into a profession with children. So I think, really helping our children to develop their identity. Giving them choices. Try and give as many opportunities as possible for your children to make choices. Choice making is so important for children to build their confidence. And, when they make a choice, say things like, good choice. Wow, that was a good choice. So that they can build confidence in their choice making and in their decisions. The more you reinforce this, the more that they will be confident communicators in putting forward their ideas, because they know they make good decisions. Encouraging them to express their ideas. It's very easy to get on with life. And actually, maybe in lockdown in this time, you can think about ways that you can actually ask your children for their opinions. It's hilarious. When I ask my grandchildren for their opinions on things, it is utterly hilarious. The ideas, but I don't laugh. I do laugh sometimes, but that's an amazing idea. I love your idea. Just give children opportunities to express their ideas, and encourage them to be curious and use their initiative. So, if they ask you a question about something, rather than you just giving them the answer, help them look it up. If they're older and they, if you've got your 5-year-old and they're asking you something, say, let's look it up, let's work it out together. Or your 4-year-old, how does this work? Take something apart together so you can be curious together and model curiosity. So we need to develop confidence in our children through recognizing who they are, to encouraging them to make choices, encouraging them to express their ideas, and encouraging them to be curious. Another important aspect of communication is that our children are able to build friendships, because that whole area of communicating through friendships is really, really important. And communication in friendships is really important. And so what are some of the skills that they need to be able to do that? Well, one of the skills they need to be able to build friendships is sharing toys, which is, often extremely difficult and doesn't come naturally and still can be a problem in later life. Initiating and sustaining shared play. So being able not just to play on your own, but actually to being able to play with someone else, which is really important. Seeing from someone else's perspective, and that's just really important, and it's part of theory of mind, and it's a really important aspect of communication. But also showing empathy to others, and that's, being able to be empathetic, and playing other children's games. So not just playing your own game, but playing other children's games. So looking at that, what about sharing? So sharing is difficult. And, if your child, well, let's think about shared play, first of all. Some children find it difficult to share play. And what I would say as a parent, and I did this a lot, is set up situations where you can support your child in a shared play. So rather than just invite a friend round, although we can't do that at the moment, or you want two of your children to play together, don't just leave them with a fun toy, but actually sit with them and help direct the play and support them in it. But do tasks that are really easy for you to direct. So it might be you're going to do a cooking activity together, or you're going to do a craft activity together, and sit with the children and have just for a very short, don't have it for an hour, have it for half an hour or 20 minutes where you model sharing in play, and you'll really support your child in that way. I would also really encourage you to use positive talking about sharing. So if you see your child sharing something or waiting for something, really reinforce it and go, oh my goodness, that was so good. I saw you waiting. That was so lovely. Well done. And really reinforcing any, even if it was a 1 second wait, reinforcing it will just heighten your child's awareness that that is something good, and that is something that will help, is a good skill, and I want to do it again because I'm going to get praised for doing it. There are certain activities that have definite roles, and I put Lego there because there's something called Lego therapy, which is great. And it's where, and you can do this with children, however, whatever their skills are, but you can do it with Duplo, where you give them different roles. So one person is the finder, they find the bits of Duplo or Lego. The other one is the builder, and you could even give them badges. You're the finder, you're the builder, and then you have one of them who's looking at a picture and showing the finder what they need to find. You need to find a red block, and then the finder gives it to the builder. You need to put that onto the top of the blue block. So giving children roles in play. So maybe you're having a pretend picnic. You're the person who's giving out the spoons. You're giving out the cups. You're setting out the toys. So giving roles will really help. Okay, so encouraging children in sharing. And the other aspect is seeing the perspective of someone else. And I think, look, this is really important. And it as I say, it's linked with probably theory of mind, and theory of mind is where you understand that someone may know something differently or be feeling something different from you, is probably one of the most important aspects of social cognition or social skills that a child needs to develop. And it develops in the first 5 years of life. So if you think of your 2-year-old, their whole world is are really around themselves and what they want and what's in their immediate environment and what they need. And your 2-year-old, I love it the way 2-year-olds do this. If they're playing hide and seek, they may put their hands over their eyes, and because they can't see you, they think you can't see them. And that is classic sort of example of theory of mind. What they feel or think or can do or like, they assume you're in the same situation. They can't see the perspective of someone else. So because they can't see you because they've got their eyes shut, they presume you can't see them. But then gradually by 3, children are starting to recognize that other people know different things and feel different ways from you. And by 4, children have really got a good idea of theory of mind that are seeing from someone else's point of view. And then they can start to play tricks. Now, you can't play trick on someone unless you realize they don't know what you know. So that starts at about 4 years of age. But we can help children understand from someone else's point of view by talking about how other children may be feeling. So, I've given an example here. James is feeling ill, so he doesn't want to play with your running game. Or Sally doesn't like playing in the sand. Let's say play something you both like. So you can help develop a child's ability to see the perspective of others through the way you talk to them. And this also involves body language, helping our children to develop and understand body language from others. And by commenting, Jenny looks sad. And this will help the development of empathy. And then finally, just to finish with, we can do communication skills. Our part of communication is understanding and listening. And it's a really important part because, as I say, communication is 2-way. And so we can do a lot of the talking, but we also need to be good at listening and understanding. And so we can help our children to be good listeners and to be good at understanding and remembering information by practicing different things. And here I've said at home, use objects of reference. So when you're telling your child about something, show them something concrete. So if you tell your child we're going to get in the car, be holding the car keys so you can show them that. Or we're going to have a shower, be holding a sponge or something so that they know what you're talking about. Practicing memory things at home is really good. Telling your child, can you go and get something? So can you go and get your shoe? Or can you go and get a car? Or can you go and get 2 things? So encouraging your children to be able to go and get different things, really important part of developing listening skills. Following and being involved in a familiar routine will really help your children in recognizing and being able to talk about things that have happened and things that will happen. So being able to predict what might happen next, you need to be able to see a sequence. So having a set routine and a very familiar routine is really important in life. And particularly at this time where a child's routine has really been disrupted by the whole COVID-19 situation, try and have a set routine at home. It will really help your child. And really emphasizing early learning is really, really important. Just now to finish is, I love this saying, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. And communication is really about involving other children and really understanding and involving them in communication. Right, I'm just looking. If you have any questions, do let me know. I would love to answer any questions for you. So put them on the chat if you have any questions. But otherwise, I really hope you found that helpful. I'd really like to talk more about any area. You can email me. As I say, I'm from the London Children's Practice. There's our London Children's Practice details there, our website address. I've also put Art Pathway Facebook, because that's another aspect of what I do. It's a screening tool for children. Do join us at our Facebook. That would be lovely. And our web page is there if you want to know more information about that. But, you know, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you found that helpful. Great. Oh, I had one question. A question's coming up. What do we do if children are not willing to share their playthings with other children? It's one of the things, children don't automatically learn how to share. So setting up simple shared tasks, like maybe it's harder to share toys that you love. It's easier to take turns with things that are not yours. So I would start off with a turn-taking task. So maybe get some bubble blowing or something like that, and try do a big thing on this is my turn, this is your turn, this is my turn. Keep the turns really short. Once children learn the whole concept of turn taking, it will develop that ability to share. So starting with turn taking with something that's not theirs, it's much easier to turn take with something that's not your best toy. Then you can start getting that idea of turn taking, and then you can move on to sharing toys that are yours. But start off with teaching turn taking. I'm just having a look at some of the other things that are written there. Regarding anger management, that what I was saying about self-regulation, about helping children, recognizing what are the triggers for your children is really, really important. Looking at catching them when they haven't escalated to that very angry situation, and excuse me, and helping them to find that place where they can self-regulate. So, you know, if it's always when another child comes to play near them, looking at how you can set up your play situation for that child so that they have their own little zone, their own area. How do we handle tantrums? That's an interesting one. Look, once a tantrum started, it's very difficult to stop it. And sometimes children need to just be, you sit near them, let the tantrum go. Be really careful at how you respond to tantrums. So you know how I said at the beginning that, you know, a child's actions are communication, and how you respond to their communication will show whether they are, how you respond to their communication will teach them whether what they did is going to get them something good or get them something negative. So when they have a tantrum, if you gave them what they wanted in the beginning, then they're going to learn a tantrum is a good thing because I get what I want. So how you respond to a tantrum is really important. And I would really encourage you to, where you can, let a child have their shouting on the floor. And I've done this with my children in shops, in supermarkets. I've had to stand near them and let them finish shouting on the floor. And then they get up and I'm extremely embarrassed and we go off home. But if you give them what they want at that point, they'll learn a tantrum is a good thing, and you'll have a child that will do a lot more tantrums. But that's a whole nother session that we could talk about maybe at another time. So someone's saying here, any suggestions on homeschooling or normal schooling, which will be good enough. You know, there's real positive outcomes for homeschooling. Children can learn a lot more quickly in a shorter space of time. But there's a real negative, which is the lack of learning how to work in collaboration with other children and aspects of social communication. So if you are going down the homeschooling route, just make sure you've got a really good homeschool group that you can meet with on a regular basis, and obviously not at the moment. that you can meet with on a regular basis, so that you can ensure that your child learns to work collaboratively. There are a few other questions, and we've got 1 more minute. So do you know what I would suggest you do? I would really encourage, there's someone here who says, my son is 2 years, 3 months, speaks very few words. Do I need to consult a speech and language therapist? Yes, I would, if he's 2 years, 3 months. You've got the number on the screen now for London Learning Centre. Do email them or contact them. You can also contact me through the London Learning Centre. So do contact me, and I will, as I did last time, I responded to people, and I will. And we've got use of AAC. AAC is so good, depends on your child, what level they're at, and what type of AAC is introduced. Again, very happy to talk that through if you email us. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sorry I can't answer all the questions. We've run out of time, and I've got another session now at 9 o'clock. But thank you so much for listening, and maybe we'll meet again another time. And look after yourself during lockdown. Thank you.